was on it for some series.
That's a good project.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna call you. But they're just they want to get rid of it. They're you don't want to run it anymore. They have like a 12 gym complex there.
Oh, it has a
It has a apartment on it and a bar and a farm outlet. They're all connected together. So we want to do like 8-story high-rise.
So it's on mixed use.
It's urbanism and it's like an 8-story building on it.
Oh, okay.
It's already done right.
That would be good.
That was one of the main reasons was James got me invited me to use money level up.
Oh, okay.
And I was interesting stuff on more real estate stuff to learn about it. And I got this on it since then.
Awesome. Like I think you guys know what we do now. Background on my side is corporate. Out of college, I was in corporate gigs, so hence how we grew up with these very structured environments. Advertising, and then I stayed in that marketing lane, but just went to Motorola and Mercedes, and kind of wound up in this automotive thing for 20 years, and then we pulled the trigger and made an entirely a huge shift in our lives, and started doing this real estate stuff. So.
I was in tech. I think most you know, I was in technology for maybe 5 years. And did an exit in 2007 and tech being forward. We were in the fiber business. So we did about 36 companies in 7 years. And then went public in 2014. So at that time, I exited. It was a big company. So they took it public. I left. Most of the senior leadership team left. So that's when we started. I said, I'm done with that. It was around 7 years we started up. So that's when we got into it. And what we did is got into fix and flips. So we knew nothing. All we had done is passive real estate investments. We had investments in Mexico and some offshore stuff, and then land deals and things like that, but no active real estate experience. Julie got a license in 2009. But that's because we owned a warehouse we bought a warehouse in Silverthorne and just things like that. All fairly passive. Even that one was active, but it was mainly passive because it was basically just redoing a lease every 3 or 4 years. So when we got in, we knew we wanted to get into the space, and so we started with fix and flips to sort of learn the space, and we did several flips. It did well, but it was not. The thing we didn't like about it was the reliability of the trades, the GCs. It was just full of people that were just had no integrity, and we had been in the corporate group with people actually under contracts, and these guys, if you got ever watched the contract, they were all judgment proof. Everything was in like a wife's name or an ex-wife's name or something you couldn't even go out, and so they would just steal your money. So I had guys literally just I give them a check and never see them again. So that kind of stuff. So we did that for about a year and a half, and then we bought our first development. We partnered with the developer in town here in Berkeley. We brought all the money, and we learned the process as well as we could. And our first deal that we did was a duplex over across from Park here.
You can see it from his balcony,
Yeah,
actually.
you can see it. But we didn't just do one. They were selling the lot next door after we bought the first lot, and we were here for First Fridays, and we pulled up, and there was some put a sign in the yard next to you, and I was like, let's buy that one too. So we literally did two as our first deal. It was crazy. And I was on the job site every day for at least a year. I learned so much about that. I was basically I had a GC, but he was doing a lot of pulling contracts and things like that, or pulling grants. So at the end of the day, we did really well on that, and we're in. So that was back in our first one in 2016, into 2016 up here, and we've been doing it ever since. And Berkeley's our favorite neighborhood.
Absolutely. And to that point on how we got in the first one, that's why I was thinking that might be a good situation for you, because we had money, we had access, we had credit.
Right.
So we took down the whole loan for the construction, and our partner was sort of ran the project. So we're like, oh, we'll learn it from you. So that was an easy entry point if you have that situation right now. So,
Yeah. It's not easy. That part of it's the harder part. It's getting the financing because you have to have a resume. You know, and even when we did these first two over here, we did that with Citywide Bank, and even though we had done one, they were still like, okay, you're doing two, you're versus a $4 million project, and they were a little skittish on it, but it all turned out well, and to that point, we never had another issue. We had plenty of assets, but they were still skittish even with that. So that's the part of it is probably going to be the biggest hurdle for all of you is going to be that bank relationship. You know, getting a bank. Just like you guys will have a little easier time because you've got that background. Nick might have an easier time, but people who don't have, you have to have a partner who is able, who has that credibility and that resume with the bank. That's particularly now. I mean, they were lending flowing back then. It's not as flowing now. You know, people they're a lot more cautious in this current environment. So we can talk more about that as well. So anyway, that's sort of the.
awesome. So I just threw some stuff. I was kind of thinking, okay, when we first started, what were some of the things that we struggled with that now we understand? We sort of talk about when people say, "Can you know how do you get in development or how do you start?" Did you guys start? Did you start?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just the let's group conversation, and you know, I assumed it was clear that this is all our perspective. This is us doing development work, like, you know, not any universal truths per se. This is how we run our business after however many years now, 7 or 8 years. So these are all super high level and just a group conversation. So, we really think about, we talk about this all the time, really development is three pieces. And just we talk about it's the property, it's the builder, and it's money. And you have to have all of them. They're not one in any order of the other. It's the three-legged stool, and if you don't have one of those legs, you're not doing development. I guess is sort of is what I would say at a high level. And I'm just going to kind of talk through these because then I think these are like on the next. I only did like three slides, but then I think what I did was we took them and kind of dug into each one of them because I think for all of you, if you're not sure where you want to start, it sounds like everybody's kind of and from flipping. Then it's like, okay, if I'm going to do ground up, how do I get into ground up? So what does that look like? So, do you want to add anything to that riveting first bullet point? So, and I just kind of said property and acquisition, the builders, you know, not just being licensed, but permitting and all those things. And then there's all kinds of ways to fund deals. So I think, and this was my thought process on it, Steve, but like, so then you have to say, okay, well, where am I going to start, right? I'm not a developer in Denver because it's just too wide and too broad of a swath of area to deal with. And so we wound up here because the first project we got involved in was a duplex on Raleigh. So we kind of happened to learn this neighborhood and that space right out of the gate. This is a, you know, and again, you find your niche and where you want to be and everything. But you know, it's really sort of about the price point tolerance and what you're willing, your risk reward, you know. Ground up in a neighborhood like this is a lot longer, it's a lot more expensive. Other neighborhoods where John builds, we've never built down there, but like South Broadway, the price points are lower. Build costs of lumber is still the price of lumber, you know what I mean? So that's where some of that kind of risk reward comes in.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
That's one of the questions I had. That maybe I asked this before. I think I get where you're going. Why you do it. So, why do you guys tend to go to Berkeley, Slows Lake versus Regis, West Colfax, what's it, Denver? What? Because those neighborhoods kind of touch each other. So, it's hard to focus on those. Why did those two neighborhoods were more prominent than some others neighborhood? It's a good question.
No, go ahead.
It's it comes down to economics for us because given the construction costs the same to build in West Colfax or South Broadway, you've got you really don't have two variables. You have the land price or the lot price, and then you have the sale price. Because construction is now you can do less than finishes, and certainly you will do less than finishes if you're in different neighborhoods. The concrete and lumber and those things are fixed price. So what you get into then is a is a situation where you look at it and go, okay, if I'm going to spend, and it's also time. Time to it also takes the exact same amount of time. So if you're going to spend the same amount of time, and this is if you have the ability to buy a higher price point, we believe that in our case, it's like when I was in the technology space. It took my guys in my organizations just as long to sell a $10 million deal that it did a $1 million deal. So you still need those $1 million deals because there's a lot more $1 million deals than there are $10 million deals. But if you have your preference, you're going to sell a $10 million deal every day, and that's how we look at the real estate business as well. At least in this market and neighborhoods that we select. So we don't play in South Broadway because we make more money in totality, not necessarily higher return, but more in absolutes. We make more by doing a project in Berkeley than we do a project in South Broadway or Regis or a place like that. So, for instance, we're doing a single family home in Valley Break right now. So, we've been calling it a $4 million home, but now we start looking at the price points. I mean, things are selling all around us. It's going to be a really nice house. But there's one up on Bonnie Brae Boulevard that sold for $7 million. One just sold for $5 million. One a block over sold for $5 million. So now we're like, this could be a $4.5 million project. So even though we didn't budget for it, we're going to spend probably another $300,000 out of pocket to do even more because we think we can push the upper limits of $5 million. So I mean, that's right there. That's we might make $1.5 million on that project, just that one project. But we wouldn't have been able to do that if we'd done the same thing in Corey, Maryland, which is only a neighborhood of it's an adjacent neighborhood. We used to live in that neighborhood. So it's a great question because it's something we talk about all the time. People are like, why don't you buy stuff? Look, if we were doing 12 projects a year and we needed, when you're in a business like that, you have to it's all about keeping flow going, and some are going to be big, some are going to be medium, some are going to be small. We would do that. But given we're more selective about our business, there's plenty of opportunity to keep us busy in the Berkeleys, in the Sloan's Lakes, in the Highlands, potentially places like that. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And it's to the comment you made too about the buy price on that Fillmore lot.
Yeah.
This was a wild anomaly. We bought it for at least 200 below what would have been the regular sale price. But we had a relationship with the cousin of the owner for 18 months before it all came together. So it's a long play sometimes, but it should be a really amazing project, financially.
Well, the other adage is you make your profit when you buy, and that's a true statement. You can certainly lose that profit if you do things that aren't very smart, but we made our profit on that, at least a minimum amount of profit on that when we bought the lot. That's why the buy price is just so great. So you have to find deals that you don't want to pay top of market. We'll pay top of market up here because we know we can get, but I'm not going to recommend someone coming into the space paying top of market and patient to find the right deal. Because if you find the right deal, you've just given yourself a buffer to make all kinds of mistakes and still make a really nice profit. That's what you did 2 years ago. We bought this is how crazy this market is. We paid $590 and $595 for those 2 lots. $1,590 and $595.
And people thought we were nuts.
And that was almost 10 years.
Yeah, we paid as much as $925 in San Rain. You guys all saw it. We paid $925 for that. It was literally.
It's right behind it on the alley.
It's Sheridan Alley. $595 and $925 in the span of 5-6 years. Yeah, and we still killed it on Brain.
Yeah.
This was crazy. We made $450,000 on that project. No, it's all duplex. This is all zone duplex. And that's another point, and we're going to jump around on this, but since it's up there, we might as well talk about it. Duplexes are, in my opinion, and I think the numbers will always prove out, duplexes are a far superior investment than single-family homes. Generally speaking, like we're going to do really well on the one buying Brain, but generally speaking, duplexes are where I would focus if I were a new developer, 100%.
Do you think that, because when I think about doing all this, I think about, okay, spending like $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, and that's like, to start out, and the reputation that you have is, the reputation, all the goodness, the financing. Do you think it's feasible to still do projects in like South Broadway. If the numbers work, of course, but with the build costs and everything else, it's still feasible for what you can get that property or that lot and still build a single family house. Maybe have lesser quality and still make a profit. Whether it's
I don't know. You have to just do the research to find out. I don't. Normally, what my experience has been in a neighborhood where you sell duplexes, the single family homes typically um, aren't as premium. Because people who are buying a single family home typically don't want to live in a duplex neighborhood. Does that make sense? It's like you see it over here all the time. You just see these people do skinny home, right? Because you only have a lot, 30 lot. They did that next to us on the two on one we built on the guy came down and built and it sat and sat and sat. Now, if you get the economic, because they're also way more expensive, right? So you have a smaller market to buy the house because you can't justify the land for a single family home and have build a single family home when you can do it, but it's going to be a lot more expensive than you could when you split it and you have two homes. So we get the ones we just sold. We're going to sell. We sold for 1.4 million per side. Left one was 395. I'm sorry, right.
1395.
And one, yeah, yeah. So we got 2.8 million out of that. You're gonna have a hard time with, and so on a skinny that the narrow homes, they were trying to sell that one for 1.9, and it's basically the size of a half duplex.
Yeah.
It's a little bigger because you got setbacks that you get to go in. But generally speaking, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about being able to be in this neighborhood for 1.4 and a really nice duplex. We're having to pay almost 2 million.
So a little bit more square footage. It all comes down to price. It all comes down to math, and it all comes down to price per square foot.
So I don't know the answer on that for sure, but that's just my feeling.
yeah, I feel like that'd be a better entry into Joe nuts. But I look at properties and luckily right now there's an ad the cost of construction like in the house and setting that up.
The single family home, you mean?
Yeah, it just doesn't it doesn't chalk out and because you're not seeing that price yet.
People do it, and I think I don't know how they're doing it. I guess they're doing it because it's probably economics on the land first of all. Because half lot is certainly you're going to get a discount. It's a little demand for it. Because a full 6250 lot is going to be a lot more in demand than a 6250 versus a 3125 lot. So
Maybe I'm narrow focused, maybe outside of like Berkeley, Souls Lake, West Colfax, where is there really an appetite neighborhoods where there are duplexes?
Cherry Creek.
find some. You find some in West.
That's even more expensive.
West Wash Park and Cherry Creek. Definitely more expensive. But as far as lowering neighborhoods, it's things you're talking about. You can also go south of what is the neighborhood south of West Colfax? Barnum.
I looked at that a lot, but that's still pretty.
Yeah, no.
No,
it's
and that's
rough.
where I think that
It's
1TL6 in
it's
Perry
pretty
or
rough.
9th in
It's
Perry.
rough.
Yeah, that's
But if it were me, I'd start out on South Broadway.
That's one of the signs showing right now south. But you see that I looked at that area since I moved to West Colfax years ago. Do you feel like that's still
Our old banker built one there.
Yeah.
He had a triplex there.
Seems like
Zion.
Yes.
It is.
So I think that
Sometimes
the
I'll get
ultimate
it and
question here, the ultimate
unrealistic.
conversation is around, I think what I'm hearing is to start in a lower price point kind of neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
To get financing to get us in the door.
Right.
Yeah.
However, the downside of that, which is why we play at this price point, is the and it's Friday, I'm having a hard time with my words, but your buyer pool at a higher price point is less interest rate dictated. They have more, you know what I mean? They have more, it's way smaller, but they're a more stable buyer. The downside of going, because if you're going down market and you're selling a duplex here for 1.3 or 1.4, and you're selling one over there for like 1.1, I mean, yes, that's a big difference to a duplex buyer, but I think you increase your risk more that it's going to sit longer. So
I don't know about that in South Broadway. I don't know if I think that's the case. I think South Broadway is a very good place to start. So now
The prices have gone up there a lot.
Prices have
Yeah.
gone up.
Yeah.
Prices are a mill. Thing,
Yeah.
1-1. You know, it's like any other thing. If you've got some, if it's sitting on an alley right behind, right off of Broadway, then it's going to be lower price. But if it's interior a little bit, it's in the right. The nice thing about South Broadway too is you can get one that's in Inglewood. And if you get one because that's the border, you get one that's in Inglewood. Your permitting is like that.
Yes.
So your
Yes.
economics get better
Denver is
immediately
awesome.
because you have less full time. Right.
Mhm.
So Inglewood, so that's the good news about that too. So that might be something you might want to look
Yeah,
at too.
that's a
Just
great point.
trying to find something in Inglewood or even, I haven't
What's the song?
Ridge.
No, but where we did
Oh,
the flip.
yeah, it's
Edgewater.
Edgewater.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking you about.
Yeah, that's
Edgewater really expensive.
Yeah, it's John had one there and he sold it because he wasn't going to do well on it. So you gotta be careful.
That's not in Denver though, is it?
No,
I was just talking from a permit standpoint.
Yeah, but if you don't
Yes.
have the opportunity, I think it's
Okay.
Is it Jefferson Heights?
I think it is.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, none of this really. I mean, the main thing is what we're going to show you is just your due diligence, because it doesn't really matter. It only matters where it is because of what you're going to find out in your due diligence. So as you're doing your due diligence, you can find great deals in South Broadway that you'll do really well on, and you can find deals in South Broadway that you'll lose on. So it's just that's why the diligence we're going to go through is the most important piece. So it doesn't matter the neighborhood at the end of the day. What matters more is that you do your homework, and that's what we're gonna. I think that's what we're focused on this scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So to that point, we just happened to start here, and we happened to start in a duplex. You know, I mean, it could have been a single family in Inglewood. It just kind of, and we were like, okay, we know this. Let's stay up here, and it's turned out it's a great neighborhood. Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about that living. We'll get into more detail. And so again, for us, when we talk and we look at things, we are more cautious. We're older than everybody here, so we're more cautious on the timing. We see like over performance everything. It's gonna take 3 months longer. It's gonna cost $100,000 more, and somebody might sue us. So we tend to be a little bit more protective, I guess, about it. But because of that, we also have more comfort of playing at a higher price point. Because to his point, we have a lot more wiggle room if we have a hiccup or an unforeseen, construction thing that comes up. So that's just again generally how we operate. So did that picture? So
I dug those trenches.
that's why that picture is there next to this
With the
one.
trying to go rent a trencher, it was
Oh,
awful.
yeah.
It was awful.
So and this is where we'll dig into the vetting. So, but again, for those of you that aren't in the space at all, like, I was sort of thinking, okay, well, what does it take to make this leap or to start to make this leap, right? Do you have to quit entirely or can you make the transition? So that's where a little bit of like, okay, well, maybe I still have a job. So what do I have time to do? Is time my issue? Is financing my issue? Is experience or contractors or subs? Where is the problem that you'll have to deal with in terms of decision making? Because maybe flipping is a reasonable place to start. I mean, we even still said we would flip a deal if it really made sense and we had a contractor that could turn it fast enough, but that would be an outlier for us, for sure.
The problem too with flipping while on that topic is that what you guys experience, it's so because the barrier to entry for a flipper is almost zero. Anybody can be a flipper if you've got a couple buddies and you got 25 grand, you can be a flipper. And so that's why deals are just gone. And this is a lot more selective, and that's why less people do it. Because as you can see, it's a little bit more complicated. But once you can break through and get that first deal, boom, you're off to the races. That's all it takes to get your first deal.
Mm-hmm. And I think a good segue from that was we have been when we sat in a room with all these real estate people and we're like, we don't know anything about like other than being homeowners, like
I was
so
a good homeowner.
yeah.
Squat. I didn't do anything.
So
it's not like I had tools and any of that. I didn't have any of that, and our developers.
Right.
Anybody can do it.
So this is why this was just a segue because when you're coming in with no experience, and obviously three of you have a lot of experience, being in the field is critical. It was critical for us. And this is like I wrote, because first of all, it skyrockets your education. Jessica and I walked two of our projects today, one done, getting ready to close. So we were walking it for inspection resolution. The other one, not quite finished, not quite at CO. And everything, it's like, oh, okay, I've heard you talk about that or that kind of thing. So, and it's the reality too of what's on the plans or what's on the paper as it actually starts to go up, come up out of the ground, and the realities of seeing it. And it's credibility. I mean, this kind of goes back to what Steve was saying too. Like, you could come in with a corporate background and have the credit score to take down the note. But you also, if you're surrounded by people and you've been out, you've kind of been engaged, that's going to help. And I think the credibility is very, very important. We were able to be successful on the lending side because of our corporate backgrounds and our credit score and that kind of thing. But like Steve said, we got ready to do that project right over there, and they're like, "Damn, you're like your first project's going to be 4 doors at $4 million." But you know what I mean? So we had to really sell them on the fact that we knew how to run the math and that we had the right contractors around us. You guys will have a different, right? You'll have no problem on the construction side of things.
And you work with more local lenders, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we were at
Commerce.
Yeah.
Commerce.
First Bank and American Bank. I didn't have the stringent criteria like that. Well, I mean, it's pretty strict. Like,
Yeah.
First Bank's pretty selective. And that was our first project ever was the First Bank.
Is that right? Yeah. So, so high level, I guess, for transition or whatever, those were just a couple of that. So yes, so this was Steve, this was Utica, so this is the project you can see. I'm sorry.
Do you have
an opinion on
I can't remember who it was. Somebody, it was Andrew or somebody. I feel like somebody said, or maybe it was Carlos, that it's sometimes it's better to actually get your money from the bank. Like, what if you could just get somebody to pay for the legit? What would they want versus what would a bank want? You know what I mean? So like the private lender versus the traditional one.
Yeah, it's a little more difficult to make the national because it's such a long project. So you're paying, let's just say that you get private lending, you can 11-12%, which would be pretty good for private. That's a pretty big drain on your financial. You'll see that. We could run that.
We'll put it in the
We'll run it in the model. I've run it before many times. Because I've never deal with banks like that.
When I was in my house in Denver, right, I put it on that. Those flips too much. Boys decided to even more than 3 months to make sense on the 2 high interest rates. And we kind of assets to going to that. So I think the flips they make more sense than it's just faster. Okay. How many loan in 24 hours? Like,
Mm-hmm. So, and I assume you're talking about, when you say private lender, you're talking about like what we're talking about, 10% interest rates, not you have a family member who loaned you $2 million at.
No, I'm talking about
7%.
family members.
Okay,
Well, that's a whole
yeah, that's a whole different topic.
It
That's where I
depends on
thought
what
you
they
were going
want
to
to
get.
get.
Yeah.
If you get a family member loan you money for 8-10%, use it all day long.
I have, yeah, so that's what I want to figure out is like what's fair for them, what's fair for us. Them not knowing anything going into it, I want to make sure that they're educated, but, there is an opportunity there for you can pretty much have anything funded at any price you could think of.
Wow.
Shit,
That's beautiful.
That's your capital source to get you up to the point where
Can you put me in touch with them?
Right. Well, so to answer your question, so like my mom and dad have been investors in our company for years, only because they were making like 0.5%, in the stock market or whatever. And we're like, God, we'll give you 5% or whatever. They were like, wow.
I'm really trying to talk this guy into so he doesn't know the side that Andrew talked Eddie into doing this stuff because Eddie lost a ton of money when he sold all those companies, right?
Yep.
Same situation that my buddy's in. Losing lots of money on $100 million deals. And I'm trying to figure out ways to tell him he needs to go on with me on this journey because he can save a lot of money on taxes. And so I'm working on him a little bit, and I've talked to him a little bit about, you know, development and flipping and stuff like that. And he's got a lot of money tied up into some big businesses right now. They just flipped into one. They've only got 3 to 5 years. He's gonna sell that whole section of companies again. And he told me a couple days ago. He told me he's like, when I sell that one, like, so
Never aspire on.
Yeah,
yeah,
you gotta bring it to the event. 'Cause
I just invited like
trying.
20 people to that event today.
Yeah. We should put that on our list of things, like, wherever the questions. So, because that could be that whole funding piece it could be obviously another whole day, or whatever. But, because there are scenarios out there like that. You know what I mean? All right. So I'm probably getting toward the end of my slide. Okay. So this was just kind of the before we punch some numbers in. So on the property acquisition side, you say you're a developer, and I think developers get a bad rap. Because everyone is one. Like, it used to be everybody was a flipper, and now it's shocking how many people are developers. And we've watched a lot of really, really, really bad projects happen in Corey Merrill where we build, like, just people, like the one guy from New York built this house, and we know, we can run the map to know. It was like a Miami Vice house. It was so ultra modern, so over the top in this family neighborhood, And it was on the market for a year, and I think they came off their price over $1 million off of their price when they sold it. So, this is where, like, people came in greedy, and some people did okay, and some people lost their butts. The other thing too is that we've heard a lot, and agents talk to me about this a lot, is, oh, developers always come, they say they're gonna this, they're gonna buy that, and they just like burn up all my time. So part of what, we want to do sort of as I said, raise them right, meaning when you engage with people, engage from a place of, education and knowing your numbers, because this is how you create the relationships that find you the phone call. Hey, my aunt has a place right on Wash Park, and she, you know what I mean? That's how they happen because you created relationships. Even if you never bought anything from them, they know you're a player, they know you're real, and they know you're serious. And that was a big change for us because we came in like with cash. Like, we were like, no, we can buy like today. And nobody really believes that until they actually put a deal in front of you and then you do it, right? So that entirely changes the game rather than when you hear agents go, oh my God, I ran this developer around for 6 months. They never bought anything. They didn't really know what they were doing. So those were some of the things, that I think that you hear from a developer perspective that I wrote at the top. And we really try as a company and as human beings just to do it differently, which is kind of a big part of why we're committed in the neighborhoods and, financially give back and everything else. It's a great business and you make a lot of money. And a lot of these things are very true, so it's just about kind of, I think, understanding that as well. So, and like I said on there too, just, when you're working with somebody or somebody reaches out to you, because as soon as you get your name on wholesale lists and everything else, you'll start getting flooded. Um, you don't want your time jacked and not get anywhere any more than anybody else does. We have each other as resources, which is great, right? If you're flying it alone, you're just kind of doing what you think you should do. But doing those kinds of things out of the gate right will pay dividends down the road. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And I said, be honest about too. Like, you don't have to divulge, I've never done a project or whatever, because the other thing you don't want to do is have people try to dump their junk on you. I've had 2 agents and a wholesaler come back to us 3 times on the same project, and I'm like, no. 2 other wholesale, I can look. I don't even have to do anything other than pull up Google Maps and tell you I'm not buying this deal. And you don't want to be a victim on that side either, right? So, and that kind of ties back to what you were saying too, Brandon, about when people call it Wash Park. Well, sure, it's Wash Park, but it's a half a block off of Interstate 25, right? Mm-hmm. Or it's Wash Park, but it's not really Wash Park, but it's kind of close to Wash Park, those kinds of things. So, Then I thought we just kind of high level talk about sources and then just start putting some numbers in because I think vetting the deals and that kind of stuff is, the most important thing everybody wants to talk about. So in terms of sources, and this is another whole kind of topic we could talk about, finding your own is absolutely, in most cases, going to be the best way to go. Agent relationships are good. They're important. You don't want to have 10 agents running, looking for deals or throwing you deals. Jessica's an agent, so she's finding deals. And then of course wholesalers. And then there's other ways that we don't even play in this space, like auctions and subject to. I'm interested in it. I'd love to learn about it, but we've never purchased one that way that I recall. We one sort of went after it at an auction years ago, so anyway, that was kind of, let's see if I have anything else.
You guys have only done Denver Metro. Maybe you're outside it. Steve,
Oh, definitely no. Definitely not.
No, it's tough out there. Yeah, trades.
Tough to get the trades out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, and this was it, and then we can walk through one. I just said, when you vet from home, right? So we started talking about this Google Maps. When you look at Google Maps right away, it could be great news, it could be bad news, right? And that's your first line of sight. So this one deal that we kept getting vetted, and I think I put a screenshot of it in here somewhere. Right, it's this location, it's this price point, it's already this far along. It was 2 doors down from a community center. So I was like, that's usually not good, right? So then I Googled the community center. Like, well, maybe it's not happening. We serve thousands of people every month. I'm like, okay, that's a red flag, right? This is not where you want it. Like, that was all I needed to know. So commercial retail nearby, buses, school, bus routes, red flags, at least again for us, right?
I looked at one that's a couple months ago. It's not too far from here. It's like, dude, there's a freaking school right over here. We're across from this. Like, I want to do.
And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. That's what I'm saying. Like we're right near school on the other King project, the 24th and King. It's not necessarily bad. And being on a street with a bus isn't necessarily bad, but that all comes into play in terms of your buy price, your anticipated sell price, because most people, if they had their druthers, wouldn't be on a bus route. Right. So those are considerations.
Foot traffic, car traffic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that one, the deals just talking about too, that I looked at that deal very closely. It came from our agent. So it's on these couple of properties. The other thing about that block that I noticed, I went in the streets and just walked around the block in the streets and looked at all the houses. There was no new construction on the entire block. And this is the problem. People will tell you, and everybody was telling me, like, she was saying, oh, it's great. And the setup for the deal was the developer had it. That already owns it. They were closing on it, but supposedly they lost their funding on another project in Virginia. So this one's going to fall, but it's a great project. That's always a red flag, right? So I started looking into it and I'm like, it's not a great project. The thing is, you don't want to be the first new construction on the street or on the block. You do not want that ever, right? That's a really important note. So,
just extremely watching them. These are like
I would say, the more new construction, the better off you are, because that absolutely, you know that the neighborhood it has a tolerance of people buying new construction. Like so in my mind, what typically happens in neighborhoods is developers aren't the ones that typically come in and build a new home. What typically happens, I think, is that the way new construction neighborhoods get started is that homeowners will have their home scraped, have a new home built. They're like, oh, there's a new home. And then another homeowner maybe does. So you see a sprinkling, like, every few blocks you see there's a new home. Then it starts building it from there. Then a developer comes in and says, oh, okay, so there's a new home here. I'm willing to do it. And so then they do it. And then, you don't see one for a while. And then another one does it. And then it starts picking up steam. And then it becomes a turnover neighborhood. It has to be a turnover neighborhood. Like there's certain neighborhoods where the price of the homes are so high it's never going to be a turnover neighborhood, at least not in our lifetime, right? But the houses the prices that they're still commanding are still too high to ever tear down the original home.
Bonnie
Yeah.
Bray's a perfect
Bonnie
example
Brae,
of
for
that.
example, it happens now. Bonnie Brae for a very long time. Bonnie Brae was not a turnover neighborhood. It's a really low neighborhood now. So you're seeing a lot more turnover. It's just like picking up steam. But that home, it was on street was that on Washington. It was on Washington over in West Wash Park. It's a one-way street, which automatically means it's a busy street, right? It's one way. And everything around. And then on the other corner, there was a community center two doors down that could easily have been sold and be, it could be a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen or something, but just
And this is
like
it.
that.
Mhm.
So I started looking at it, and that's the kind of stuff I would do. You just want to see, and that's part of running. This is just the whole comps process.
Yeah.
Making sure that when you're looking at a deal that it doesn't have any of these issues. That's
He
it.
calls them hair on them. So
There, yeah.
right, so you go, holy shit, wow, there's Wash Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this looks awesome, right? let me dig
The
deeper.
comps
and
they
then-
were trying to use, by the way, were like we're over on these streets. And they're like, oh, you're going to get. They were trying to tell me that this
1-8, I think.
185 besides what they're coming for. 185 per side. And these over here, nothing over here. We'll show you this. Nothing over here, up and down Wash Park, and even as far over as Clarkson, had ever sold for more than 1.75. They're talking this one on the corner of Ohio and Washington, right here. That's a community center, and this is the property right there. And
I pulled it out
we thought it was next door, but it's actually one house down.
This is it right here. That
So I went,
Yeah.
this.
is
So
that.
I went on the streets, and I walked all the way around this block. And down here on the southern end of the block, there's a tavern, which is a bar. And it's like a dive. It's a dive bar on the other. And then there's a auto body shop on the other corner. These are only like 6 or 8 houses down. So this thing's never going to sell for that. They were trying to sell me. And so it's a little like, you get a little insulted. You're like, you're trying to unload
Right.
this on me. And
Mhm.
you know damn good and well that this is not a good deal. This is why the dude's unloading.
What was the lot price for that?
1-1.
Wow. Well, it was 1-2, and then this is the other red flag. One of the houses, it was an existing duplex, and one had already been demoed. Which, okay, so you even got far enough along in the project, you demoed one of them, which meant they may have uncovered it with a meth house, or you know what I mean. Like sometimes there's red flags for a reason, and sometimes
Well, it's like the one down Lincoln.
Yeah,
There's that.
Mhm.
I was too. That one, like, one was already come out. And
This
Yep.
is an apartment complex here I saw, and it's a dump. And it's literally, here's your home. Right there. Right.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of stuff you have to do. Because in my first song, I'm like West Wash Park, I'm all over this.
Right.
As I started looking into it, and then she kept arguing with me. Like, no, that's not a problem. It's just a community center. I'm like, and she's like, it's 2 doors down. She doesn't understand development.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and she also doesn't. This is the thing about agents too, is that agents that sell all over Denver may sell all over Denver, but that doesn't mean they know them, right? So when you hone in on a neighborhood and your agent really knows a neighborhood, then you're awesome, right? We know this neighborhood because we used to live there, and we've tried to get into that doing development deals. West Wash Park will never sell as much as East Wash Park either, right? So you're already dropping your price point. So just broad things like that as you, and in the math, the pro forma will literally start answering these questions for you guys. I mean, right out of the gate. So, so that's probably a good
Is that a
segue.
thing that is it shared?
About
Did we
30%
put it on did we share the calculator? I mean, I can put it in the thread.
Yeah, no, it's not shared.
So Julie, you're gonna look at the 601 Downing property then?
I can put whichever one you want.
Is this,
I would like to look
This
at
is
that
that's
one.
a deal.
I
Yeah,
spent
that's
like
what
an
we're
hour
gonna
on that
do.
last night. Yeah, I was like, I want to get into Julie.
What was that?
No, I did the same thing.
601 South Downing.
I did the same thing, James. So it'll be interesting to see if ours match up.
Yeah.
What was our down here? Is this a single family home?
Yeah, let's see how it was, yeah.
We were in the 600 block.
Which I
We were too?
Yeah.
He said 601 South Down.
that's the one
Oh,
she
we're on,
wanted to
we were
chat
on,
in there.
we were on North Down.
Yeah, it's just South Downing.
Yeah, this one's close.
This is like
Oh.
literally across the street from Wash Park. Like the lake.
Oh yeah. They're right at the intersection, Downing. That intersection of Downing at Arizona, where the high school is.
Oh, yeah, let's look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me put up the calculator. So what am I doing? Am I pull? How do you guys want to do this? Meaning,
Well, let's
Can we show them like we did on the Google Maps just so everybody can see it?
sure.
Yeah,
That's what I was doing last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to also go through like the if you have plans of themselves, it explain like what each is.
Well, let's.
Some are
So,
self-explanatory, but
well, then let's just walk through how we
Yeah, we
would
should
walk
tie
through it.
that somewhere.
You know?
We're going to do that. There's some things in here that just are not necessary. I did this. This was like 5 years ago. I kind of did something that was in California and moved to London, and so I kept with them for a few years. And this is sort of taking a lag of its own. I'm not a spreadsheet guru, so I had to develop a plan. I knew what I wanted. Um, but some of this stuff is not necessary. I never use it, so I'll go through that with you, Brad, so you guys can understand what the important cells and the ones that you can hide.
So this is this. What we'll do is exactly how we would do this.
I would start in our matrix.
Well, no, but I mean, we would always start by looking at the address.
We would, but I'm saying,
Viable. Yeah.
the first thing you do before that, even, or at least I do, I normally start in Colorado because I want to know whatever they're asking for the lot. I want to go and see what other lots have sold for in the past 6 to 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
They're also what we call scrape. We call them scrape lots. So the scrape lot is the sort of the starting point.
So you could search by just screen lots somehow.
What you do is you search. There's a couple things you can do. What you do is what we do is we search for anything that's called 1970 or prior. So you do like 1970 minus in RA Colorado. When she pulls it up, we can show you some of the search.
So
That's right on.
you
now.
do really start here. He does start here because we would look at this right now and we would pass on this.
I was concerned with busy street.
Yep.
I mean,
This is one of the busiest intersections in all of Wash Park. That's a good news, bad news thing, right? Somebody who really wants that energy in the environment, they can sit on their front porch and they can watch the action all the time. That's awesome. But it's traffic, it's parking, it's, you know what I mean? So for us, that's too risky. If it was one block over and 5 houses down all day long,
We can still count it.
Oh, yeah, no,
You
we'll
got all
definitely
these
count it.
houses along
that's
the-
why I wrote down last night. It's like busy street. You got a lot of foot traffic. You got a lot of cars, dogs. I mean, it's
Oh, and it's
you
the
want
corner
any
too.
privacy, this is the road.
Yeah, it's
Street.
the corner.
And some people
too.
want that. So you go to the other, if you go to the other side of Wash Park, right on the park, you go to Franklin. Those homes right there, there's homes up
Oh my
there
God.
that are up to
These,
$8-10 million.
yeah.
But then it's bring it.
Almost
Or
every
does-
single one of
yes,
those have been
yes.
scraped now. Yeah.
You know,
It gets a hell of a lot of traffic though. That street every weekend in the summer. It's just it's a hectic place, but
But what's
prime real estate.
and it's funny because in theory, right, this is the same as this, but it's not. This is a very busy street, Downey, compared to Franklin. Franklin is literally more of a neighborhood street. It doesn't drop down right onto Arizona. You have to go around.
it used to be your artery.
Yeah, so that would be one. And again, East versus West Wash Park. But let's run the math on it because I'm curious to see how it.
And I think isn't Downing the starting line for West Park?
Yeah, if the boundaries are
The
Downing.
park is the boundary.
Yeah, Downing,
You guys,
Virginia.
I noticed you
Franklin.
were naming all kinds of neighborhoods. How do you know what they
Live 10 minutes from here, and then I've got a place in West Colfax, so I look at real estate all the time.
Is there not? is
So
there
you
a-
can just
a
do Denver
search?
neighborhood
Like,
map.
I think it's
And
more important to understand.
that's how
Denver,
you
too,
can
and
find, like-
walk around. Like what I've noticed is that like I said earlier, that Berkeley and even West Park West is different than East. You have to actually go there and understand like what is going to be a good property. Like with Berkeley, South Berkeley is different than North Berkeley. So I think that's going to be helpful for me to sort of like walking down that.
And spend time.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And I think that you just to learn the names of the neighborhoods, search something like this, right? A little map even like this. So then someone says, "Oh, it's in the Barnum neighborhood." I really only know the half a dozen neighborhoods that we even look at a lot, you know. So there's a from that perspective because those are the kinds of things that agents talk about too. Okay, so we're gonna put it in MLS then, right? And this will be interesting to see how Jessica would do this search compared to how I would do this search. So.
Now, would you guys, obviously you're gonna pass on this, but you would do duplex there, right?
Might not be
Might not be zoned for duplex.
So there was a property down the street that was duplex.
No, maybe they might have got
But I noticed the days I'm working there was.
You go on.
good thing to look at.
I use Denver property for Denver real property maps. If you go in there and type in the address, you can see it out.
Never real property notes.
Yeah, I use it all the time.
I got a buddy
What's
that's
Yeah, it's called Kansas.
Yeah,
I don't know.
what is it?
It's like it's on the zoning.
So I
Oh,
you can go in
okay.
there and type in the
Denver
address
property
and,
maps.
and get you can get all the information on the property, like the
Yeah.
square footage and the
Yeah.
you know.
It's just a GIS.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the zone one.
Yeah.
But just put the zone in.
And it's just a quick way to find those.
So what was the main factors why you guys would turn away?
Busy
street.
Right, busy street. We lived over there, so we
Yeah.
know it really
So
well.
it's just busy street.
It's
That's it.
more than anything.
That's
It's that. Yeah.
There's no other, and it's going to be. You're probably going to see the same story up and down there, but this is what's going to tell us.
Yeah.
This will tell us what.
So you'll plug the numbers in on this deal.
Yep. Well, so we'll
Yeah.
pull the comps, and but we'll run the whole deal, right?
But you have to run it a couple of different ways. You want to look at how much are they asking for it? Was that 1.079?
Yeah.
So you want to run it based on the spray comps, so based on the comps that other people would have paid with like lots with the original construction on it, right? So you run it that way first. And then you run it based on what the new sales are getting for those same like homes. There would have to be pretty much on down. That would be the only criteria. So you're going to look at, there won't be that much. I'm going to have to go back a year or two and you'll be able to figure this out, you know.
Are you in a
This is an agent. This
Agent
is
side
MLS.
of-
So as an agent, this is our login
Okay.
as
so
an
that
agent.
so
So
that you're not
You
an
could
agent?
do it in
you can't get to
Zillow.
this.
You can do it in Zillow. Yeah,
You
we don't
can-
use Zillow, but you can do the same thing.
a lot of and
Or
a lot of information.
Yeah, or-
This is probably a faster way to get it done than other ways. Just because everything is in one place. This looks really small, doesn't it?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
We're good.
So to Steve's point, then, so I'll start, and then Jessica, you chime in on how you would search this. So what I would do is probably, I usually do a map search or whatever. Do you want to do a map search? Okay.
I do.
So we
That's
usually
fine.
do a map search because to say a quarter of a mile, right? It'll make it ring like this, rather than doing a square because we would know street by street what we would consider a comp, So I'm gonna pull this little guy. And then I'm gonna make a shape for West Wash Park only because I don't think East Wash Park would be a comp. And I would not go even as far as Alameda because it's a busy street, and I would probably not go much past Washington really. So I would probably pull it like this little zone right here.
Yeah, because then what you try and find out too is those houses that front more Downing and Downing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have, you only have that one street of homes. That's really your house.
Right. So this is well, I'll just kind of keep clipping along because then this is where you can noodle with the things a little bit. So what we want to look at is that I would pull everything, all those categories, and then I would say, this is the first thing that we do is we come over here, year built, and chime in here.
1970 minus, yeah. Because we're trying to find straight lots there.
Oh, I thought you were trying to, so you can do
You're
it one
finding
to
straight lots. The first process is you find straight lots that are at the house. Like borrowing the lots all along down and selling for 1.1 million. That's first.
I thought we typically look at it from the perspective of what is new construction selling for. You know what I mean? You can look at it in one and
But
two
it doesn't
ways.
matter until you know what your price is. It doesn't matter what it sells for until you know what you paid for it. No, you just do it minus.
And
You say 1970 minus.
whatever neighborhood you're going into. So
Sorry?
1970 minus.
For the straight lots, yeah. Typically anything 70 plus here long.
As an agent, you have this tool, and so does Steve, right? How would they access it?
You would do this in Zillow. You just have to use all. It lets you do the same criteria. You just have to just a different set of them.
So we got 27 results, which isn't that many, but I would further narrow it down because the lot size makes a huge difference over there. So I would say any lot that was 6,000. Is it a standard
It's
lot?
like 6,300 something. 300 and change. I looked at that.
Okay, what you can what
Yeah.
he does this more than I do.
Yeah.
I can't unplug
You have
them.
to stay plugged in.
This is pretty cool, yeah.
Yes.
I gotta write that.
I can't remember what you did yesterday. I can remember what it was.
So, the red is sold too. Yeah. So, the good news is, well, these are black boxes. See? These are all black boxes. This is a little bit more.
One down below.
Was there one below?
I don't have to use this mouse.
Yeah, so there's either one on market or one that's sold right on now. I guess. Can't remember what it was.
Can you guys see it down?
Yeah, go down.
Oh, all the way down. Let me see. That might have been ready to live in. That's the other key that you have. If something is, yeah, that just closed. So, but I bet you that one. So that's the other thing you have to do. You have to go in and look at the pictures, and you'll see something that looks like it's scrapable, and then you'll go in. If someone has remodeled it, then you've got.
How far back will you go see this whole?
How far back did you go?
I didn't set a time. It was only for how for when they close.
So maybe after 6 months you won't see any longer.
You can change it. Yeah, you can any criteria you want. Yeah, you go back to 10, 40 years. When you go to criteria and you close 6 months in default.
Something
You
that
won't too far on there. Like 6 months.
Well, we'll leave them back.
So right, so a good example of that, like the house that we're building in Riley Gray, when we were pricing what our purchase price should be, so few have sold in there because that's a neighborhood, it's sort of like the Cherry Hill neighborhood. You don't scrape a lot of shit in there, right? So you have to change your criteria then to make it go further back, to make it wider, just to feel comfortable that the number you're paying makes sense.
Because you're buying the property, you're selling the property, and how much this.
Yeah, exactly.
That was like the scrape it. So, Julie, I don't know Wash Park as well. So,
In a couple words, what separates Wash Park East from Wash Park West?
Wash Park East, the feeder street is University, and then that tips over into Belcaro, Bonnie Gray, Polo Club, Country Club. I mean, that's the highest price.
It's more affluent.
Yeah, exactly. Closer to an interstate always means more apartment complexes. More, and when you have apartment complexes and things like that, nothing's wrong with apartment complexes, but you need more liquor stores and laundromats and things like that, right? So again, I always say, if I'm going to pay 1 point whatever, how tolerant am I from how far away I am from that? And again, this goes back to our we don't do enough deals a year where we're willing to roll the dice, and go, whatever. If you play at a higher volume, you can take a few more chances.
How many deals per year?
6. And again, it just depends upon finding the right lots and buying them on the timing that makes sense for us too, Yeah. We did a flip over there.
Sure. I don't know if this house is
Okay. Well, and Sprague's, I've never been able to get them out without Sprague over there. I mean, it's not prices.
sell prices on.
The sell price isn't high enough for the cost of the construction and the price of the lot. The delta between all that just didn't, again, for us,
Where did you see through?
right down the bottom.
Oh, I see.
It's weird. How grown tree hatches in 20 times less than once.
You still got the lot size small too now.
Oh, yeah.
What's the lot size? Can you put that in there? Yeah. Oh, no, it's not.
Oh, yeah.
Lot size. So how are we only getting 3 here? Okay. Saying there's only 3 new builds in West Wash Park.
Price one.
Oops.
What's your criteria?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, well, you do the map search.
So you're 0.25.
Where's that?
Well, we drew the map.
We drew a map.
So,
Look at it.
oh, sorry,
That's
you
like-
you
look
did
at
it
it
the
here.
last year?
I did 2020 plus.
Well, so this is what we pulled though, remember, oh God, 2020.
Yeah, there's gotta be more than 3.
Does it
Yeah.
say, cause when you go in there, you had a thing that said 365 days? Is it 100?
That means
That
he's
means-
looking
oh,
back
this-
as far as a year on closed
So in the
properties.
last, so what this is saying is, this might be right, is in the last year, there have only been 3 sales of homes that were built since 2020.
Yeah.
That's possible, but when it seems low.
And that's what I'm getting in Zillow too.
Yeah, check it
Well,
out.
hold on, let me go back to your criteria again, because I was just thinking, did it have to do with the,
Everything's
oh,
blank.
I was gonna
Literally
say the
everything's
year.
blank except for
Well,
the
does
year.
it have to do to the closed 0 to 360? So what this means
Yeah,
is
it means in the last
anything that
year.
has sold in the last year that's 2020 or newer.
Yeah.
That means, so what that says is only 3 new properties in that whole area.
360.
What's that?
Just try 360. Put 2020 plus. Now, give me just try 360. I don't know.
360 new
At the
days?
0 to 360. Yep.
Oh,
Because that's what they go by. They go 180, 360. I just.
See that days close.
the
Yeah,
days?
the
I didn't
days
know that.
close. But I don't know. I just. Nope. Okay.
I mean, it kind of make. I mean,
Inventory's
been so low the last year. That doesn't really surprise me.
I know, it's
But
not.
I think
mean,
this,
the neighborhood
but I
size
bet do that exact same search honey on the other side of the park, and I guarantee you're gonna get 50.
I'm seeing a lot more on their side.
Yeah, because that's a better side to
Because
buy,
it's- yeah,
and more
so-
reliable on the sell side.
So bottom line though, let's just play this out. Let's just say, let's go back to the map and say, okay, let's assume that that's the case. You have to look at these houses and see.
Oh, yes. Scroll down. There. And then they will be purchase. Tracking.
Try that Ohio State mouse pad.
You mean that national championship mouse pad?
Yeah.
The national championship mouse pad.
That was a route.
Let's see.
There are snacks. You guys don't have those.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. See this one's on or close.
This is if there was only buying property you would do less than 170 or 1970 or like less breaks.
No, we're just saying that's a way to search on scrapable lots, typically.
That's one thing I know. So the other partners can just still try to do as wide as the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is interesting, just like how is this house? Look at this. This house is built in. Oh, it's a townhome. That's why I was going on.
What are you seeing there? What are you looking?
4727.
Because it's so. I thought it was a single family home for 1.8.
That would be high.
That'd be
There.
low.
Oh, that'd be low.
Yeah, for a single family home.
Okay.
This
What
is
should
the-
they be there?
This is, they could be up to. And that part of Wash Park, you could get them up to 6 million.
But on the other side, there are like very good higher.
Oh yeah,
Like 5 times higher or something.
they're a lot higher. Well, they can
Wow,
be.
that's crazy.
They can be. I know. Yeah.
Steve, I'm seeing 501 South Downey sold for 3.15 in March of last year.
You are.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it there, but on Zillow it's showing it. It's a single family too.
And it was on Downing. What year
Yeah.
was it built?
Um,
And it was sold in the last year.
yeah.
Well, that's encouraging. I mean, on Downing, it sold for that much.
The year built 2010,
And I'm sorry, was it fifth in Downing?
501 South Downey, yeah.
I'm still just like block. Oh my God. It must be just a block away. Because the one we were looking at was the center, right? That's the 600 block.
It's right. It's right south
So,
of Virginia, like
it'd be-
the second house south of that point there.
Really?
Yeah.
What about
On Downing.
667 South Downing?
667. Oh, here's 511 right there. I just thought you guys look at that.
Yeah.
So
So let's plug it in. This is a great exercise. Because right
Well-
off the top of your head, $1 million to buy, 3 to sell. That's a $2 million
I
delta.
can tell you
Right?
that one thing that math works. I mean, I can just look at it and say that math works.
Does it worry you that there's only one count though?
Yes, 100%. Because I don't know, like this.
Is that how much?
No, it's single family home.
Steve, can you look at 667 South Downing?
Yeah.
I don't remember that was single family or duplex last time with that. It's 2.3 out.
It's 2.3 new, or like a straight block.
I looked at so many
Or not
copies
someone
last
who's
night.
big.
That's the single family.
Center. So I don't have it here. 6. Would you say it was
667
Can
South
you figure
Downing.
that out, Lori? It's really weird. Isn't it?
Oh, I can't.
625.
Okay. I knew you did. Yes.
Oh,
But
six,
I'm
seven,
shorter
really?
than you are, so I was like,
So that's an original.
I didn't leg up.
Yeah, and the reason it's sold so high, you can see that's probably a really nice house. Like
They
a.
put a V-lane.
Yeah.
I like that.
The
I
other
mean, I'm liking, and that's V-lane. Oh, these two things don't go together, right?
Yeah.
And
So-
that footage, right?
That was built in 2014. It says 1922 on the thing, but you know, in the description it says 2014.
It does?
Yeah. I'm on Zillow, but
It says 2014.
yeah.
So this could be wrong. But, you know, Julie writes it down sometimes where.
So in Zillow it says there's a section that says built in 1922, which is the original public house, and but the description when you described it, it says 2014.
So on your railroad, you're talking about the exact shapes on this money. You can go to sell history for the actor.
Yeah, you could definitely do that.
I mean, Zillow will show it to me as well. I would show the county website.
Still just showing those two in the last 2 years. So there's just not a lot of sale activity. These are both. That's a duplex.
So would you say, Steve, further west would be worse?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No, those are really nice neighborhood there within those streets. Off the Wash Park, I just don't know. I just don't know enough about that neighborhood, you know. But I do know Julie's right about Downing. Downing is, it's just like we did a house in Corey, Maryland that was only a block off of Mexico, and it was the nicest house we've done to date, and it was hard to sell that one because it was a block off of Mexico. And we said it was literally right Madison. It was on Madison, somewhere right in here. And he said, we'll never do it. We'll never do it again because you just don't want to go to buy anything that has any error on it, you know, anything someone could say that's it's a great house, but the reason I didn't buy this house is because of X. Whatever the X is. And it could be something minor. They could say, you know, because I don't like the master bathroom. But generally speaking, people are going to get over that. I mean, this house was so nice and it was a really good price point for people. But it was because it was like 5 houses in from Mexico. And it was too close to 25 and it was too close to Mexico. And not as busy. It's pretty busy. It can be.
It's the noise more than anything.
Yeah. So we just said we're never doing it again. You know? And so we learned our lesson.
So, and I think this goes back
On
to
that.
what you were just saying. You certainly wouldn't want. I would want you all to start with a
Yeah.
project that is really comfortable in terms of no hair. You know, take riskier ones down the road.
This one might be a good one if you're like 5 or 6 in.
Maybe, but
Maybe,
here's
maybe.
the thing too. Remember with development, like the whole time can really begin to review.
Yeah.
You know, right now we're paying. Where are we at on one of our projects? What is it, years ago? We're paying $15,000 a month right now to hold unit
Well, they're not selling.
while they're in selling.
That
15,000
just
a
comes
month.
off the top line.
Are you paying when you get a bank loan, are you paying the premium and payments after construction's done and before construction's done?
You don't make the payments until your construction loan basically runs out, and that's what happened on ours.
Okay.
It's gone. All the construction money's gone, plus all the interest reserve is gone. Because you don't pay anything while you're under construction, but it goes to that same point is
Yeah.
luckily we can do it because we have enough liquidity to do it. But if you're a developer and you run your full gamut of your construction loan, all the money's gone, you're literally carrying it out of your pocket.
You're writing a check.
And not only are you carrying 15 grand a month on it, but we're also paying 4 grand, or not 4, but quite a bit for staging and all the other carrying costs, right? So we could be paying 20 grand a month, and it doesn't take very many months of that.
Yeah.
If you're sitting on Downing and you can't get anybody that's like okay with buying a house on Downing,
Yeah.
you can screw yourself. It's just not worth it, you know?
Yeah.
And James said this earlier about days on market. That's the other thing you want to look at. And all of these sales, you know, things particularly that are sold in the last, and this is not a good neighborhood to look at, we don't have enough inventory. But if I were looking at a neighborhood like South Broadway or Berkeley or any of those, I would go in and look at all the sales that happened in the past 6 months, probably since, you know, interest rates have come down a little bit, but they're still not down, you know, really what people's comfortable. I would start looking at days on market. And you're seeing a days on market. You know what it's going to tell you right now. It's telling you that days on market are increasing significantly year over year.
Yeah.
And so our days on market were higher than they've ever been for Berkeley. Berkeley was like literally you put on the market and it just almost sold itself. But not now. You actually have to work for it.
Do you guys know your like average?
Yeah, well, we should jump into that. I don't know what Julie has in mind. Oh, one of these. Let's see, she's got 5 inches. What's a pop called that she said?
Smart investor. It's like they sell bio. Smart investors is about to happen.
This is oh, this is all. Project
Might be that. Might be one of those ones at the top there.
Julie was ready to have this here. Project tracker. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we gave me a hard copy of your investment.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's literally A to Z, everything on how you buy a property all the way through. It's big project management. So we have project management. Okay, that software. Yeah. It's pretty fun. Sorry.
That one is it.
Investor properties.
Well, that's all in the browser.
Let me see.
Maybe she hasn't pulled it.
Let me see. Yeah,
Hold on to the name of it. No.
Oh, did she?
I think if you minimize the browser,
I must be having it here. I'm looking at it. Well, the cell that I was just saw that's actually why it's calling this man's line. I was on here. I don't know so yeah, that's one of the reasons we move on. The philosophy of the everything's in opposition with this, but there's just a swap open and then this. That's wrong with this in the top. Especially some things that we can use.
What is this, Brandon? There's a lot of questions up there. And it's got your name on it, so I assume you know what it is.
Yeah, I was looking for that spreadsheet. Was that in the chat? I couldn't find it.
So that's at the top of the other. It's not our subgroup. It's the main group.
Investor group.
Oh, that's right.
It's pinned to the top there.
It's
I was
the
looking for my
top.
questions in there last night. I couldn't find them.
She created a tab for questions, so yeah, it's really with that.
She's paying a GC or GC. She said, Jesus.
Is it behind this? Minimize.
Yeah, I know. That's what she said. It's like, oh, I forgot my first.
Top left.
Yeah, I got
You
it.
see,
It's like,
there's
yeah.
the one
Or
where
you were listening.
I will. I was always listening.
Make it bigger.
Sometimes the ones in our stuff as well, but
You said your shit line, baby.
There we go, yeah.
All right.
trying to buy a whole bunch of corn and corn.
Brandon, did you say this is in the group too?
No,
No,
it's not.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
No, what are you trying to do? Group bottom is 31. That was you.
There's room.
Oh, you're gonna go down. You're gonna.
What's that?
So there. That's what.
Yeah. Oh, I was in the wrong,
Yeah.
on the wrong menu.
Yeah. There you go. Good. Right.
I'm trying to, this is not really useful. I mean, it's a summary, but I've been using this for 5 years. So, this is maybe a tried and true formula. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I developed this like 5 years ago, and it's got everything in it that I've ever needed to evaluate deals. So I use it as my pro forma. So all my deals that are past active all have these for them, and then I just use where the next deal is, whatever project is we're doing uses. So what percent do you usually get? So when you close the deal, so it's at 1% up and down. You ever analyze it? I've never analyzed it, but it's almost always my numbers are lower than what you're more conservative, right? Yeah, more conservative for sure. So, that's, you ever get 25 years? Yeah, right on. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we get pretty close, but there's always there's so many variables but luckily a lot of them are just small, If you get the big ones right, you're in pretty good shape. So there's a toggle on here. Basically, if you put in single family home, it's just a little simple thing. It's a duplex. It was split out per unit here. But the formula says if it says single family home, then it just doesn't do anything. And then if it doesn't say single family home, then it divides it by too. So these are for duplexes. And it doesn't matter. It's just this one line is also affected. Everything else is. So that's the question.
Yeah. Because your appetite for duplexes also just stays hard, right? The days of market are 1.4 versus rates.
Typically, although sometimes it's counterintuitive because, like Julian said, like in Bonnie Gray, you'll see homes that are 5 million and they'll sell like that. If someone comes in with a lot of money, well, they don't even need a mortgage, they're just paying cash. Or they're paying so much of it, it doesn't matter. So I just literally that's why we're so neighborhood driven. We go here and buying in those neighborhoods. So anything in blue is an input field. So let's just do this downing. So let's say that we buy that. She's got this newer, I have an older one, and it's short.
It's not my technology that I'm saying.
I know.
Julie's right.
And so we leave this pretty much the same. So, no, this.
So those metrics there are almost.
And this should be our worst case scenario. Maybe should be 20 months, right? So, in particular, this used to be like the pre-construction was permanent. So, the other thing about one of the keys is not just the lot, the GC, and the money are all very important. But one other important thing is having a good architect, because the architect is key in getting your permits done. And in Denver, and that is you don't take that for granted. It's new deals. These projects that we're just selling right now, these things took over a year from a year. I mean, it's harder deals, and we're still doing fine because we are conservative, but that's a lot more hold costs than we modeled.
What's the time? Is it revisions and you get back
It's
sent back into the queue and
yeah, it's incompetence on their part, and they're getting better because we have a new executive director of community planning and development (CPD), but who's actually a former developer, and so he came in. The mayor brought him in because it was just abysmal how these guys were doing. So that's a key, though, I would say, and that's why we're down to 7 now. But I used to model that at 12 months just to get it funded. It's insane.
Is there any way you can research that?
You'd say
How would you even know that unless you live in Green?
you wouldn't.
Right.
I mean, no, actually, you go to the website and they used to track it. I don't know if they do anymore, but it was so bad they had this time tracker.
Yes.
It's not right either.
It's never right.
Exactly. Like you can
so they
change
I'm used
with
to
the slightest.
I go in all of my remodeling, I go get permits to
You just go down Castle Rock.
You probably walk right down in and they give it to you, don't they?
yeah.
We got a house permit in Castle Rock, and it took us like 2 weeks. We got one. We house we were building for ourselves.
Yeah.
You ever try to get like an excavation and foundation permit ahead of the rest of it, or that's the rest?
We can do it. I don't think we don't normally do that because also the lenders, you have to be careful because if you do too much, they're not going to want to lend money on. Yeah. So I used to do that. I used to get excavation done. Sometimes we would even place a foundation, but I stopped doing that because I just don't want that to be risky. So anyway, there's your 20 months. All these are, so that shows you then your refinance after 7 months is refinance is basically taking from the land loan when you buy it to the construction loan, right? So it's 7 months later. So it happens in September, and then your loan period is 13 months, which is your construction time plus 3 months to sell. So then that's how you get your 20 months. Here's the projected sale thing when you bought something.
So what do you mean refinance if you something like that in these circumstances?
Yeah, basically what happens is you either pay cash, which we used to do for our lots, but now we've done more. We get a lot loan, right? So one we just put this last week, bond loan. We just bought 4161 Utica. Pardon me?
25% down.
Yeah, so they'll normally do 75%. loan to value, LTV on, so we put 25 on that one. And almost all the banks are the same way on that. They won't, no one will go up to 80 on lane, right? They'll just they'll do that 80, some will do 80 to 85 on construction, but that's an LTC, that's a loan to cost, and I can talk about what the difference is. So the, so when you, what happens is you take down that land loan, and once you're ready for construction, you have to plug in, right? You're ready for construction, you go to the bank. We typically do it the same bank. Sometimes we'll do it different. One bank will make the loan on the land, and another bank will do the construction loan. But you go to the bank, and they'll basically take out that first loan for you as part of the construction loan. So you've already got, let's just say, we'll run the scenario, you'll see it in here. Actually, you'll see it as we go through this.
Okay.
So this is, let's say it's a standard size lot. You just put your lot square footage in. That's just for your own reference. It's not necessarily something that matters in the formula or in the calculator. Here's your price. Let's say we paid 75 for that. And we're gonna run this one, right? So this is
1075.
oh 1075. Closing costs roughly, two 200 basis points or 0.2.
Do you have to? I mean, obviously, you try to adjust that depending on what they give you or like what.
It's really
That always consistent.
it's title driven. Yeah, and on the land, because you have to you pay your title fees. It's not as much on this side. It gets to be more expensive when you go to construction. Because when you go to construction, the title company requires its own the lender requires its own policy. So you're basically buying an additional insurance policy. So you get it along with fees on that side. But and then prepayments, we typically, this is just, and by the way, the thing to think about with this is a rough calculator. This is so you can understand, is it even in the ballpark of something the deal I want to do?
Yeah.
Your closing cost could be 3,000 or 4,000, but it's not going to materially change the deal when you're talking about it. $2.5 million, right? So same with prepaids. Prepaids are things like, we don't have the list here, but it's I'll just run through them real quick. It's, when you buy the lot, the first thing you do is get a survey. You might even have a survey before you buy it, but typically not. Survey. You do soils. Surveys, a couple grand. Unless you have an alley dedication, that's a whole other story. 25, about $2,000. You have your soils testing is another 2,500. Then you do, the next thing you do is you get your architecture going. You pay anywhere from 15 to 25. I'd say somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 is probably more reasonable on architecture. Brandon can answer that question. But that's what we are willing to do. On this is on duplexes, not on single family homes. Big single family homes you pay a little bit more than that. Customers. So that's called 20 grand for that. And then your other big costs are your engineering. So you do structural engineering, it's 5-6 grand. Plus you got you have to do your manual. Yeah, exactly. And that's your HVAC. Essentially, you're engineering on that. You got your electrical, which is another grand. That's 1,000 for each of those. And then the big unknown is asbestos. So for the first time ever, wasn't it the first one ever that came? Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica's King.
Family
No
not.
asbestos.
You're welcome.
What about?
Yeah. And so when they came back and they were like, we don't even think the state's going to believe us when we submit this because they always have asbestos.
Oh.
But that's just a matter of how much. So Stewart, are they anything against Stewart? Stewart, we just launched a new deal, but we got that one's pretty much funded now too. That one we had like it's always the thing, and you probably see this too in your remodels, but it can be, ceiling tiles, floor tile, it can be everywhere, or in some cases they'll just use it to wrap your ductwork. They used to use it to wrap ductwork back in the day for insulation, right? And so that's what Stewart had. So it was only like 3,000 or 4,000, but we paid as much as 18,000 on grain. That costs us $18,000 to do the asbestos mitigation with grain. It was everywhere in the house. So that's one that, we model 12,000. That's about rough. We also model another 12,000 for demo of the house, and that can range from more like 8, 9 at the very low end. You hardly just see that anymore, to maybe more like 14, 15, depending on how big the house is, with materials. It has a big garage or outbuildings or whatever. So that's really what's in the prepaids. That would also be a construction.
Where do you have desk? As a part of like ESC, drainage, erosion, so erosion control.
We don't have to do that. We don't have it.
Mhm. So they don't make you put the
No.
silk fence
No.
and all
It's
that.
Castle Rock, man. I remember that too.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I had to put
Oh,
that
on the, when we were doing our personal
personal
residence?
residence. Yeah.
That's right, I remember
So
that.
you don't have to do that up here. I figured it would be more prevalent up here than it would be down there.
No, they don't care about mud control.
That's crazy.
That's our
Thank
give
God
back
they
to you guys
don't,
getting a
because there's-
permit
it's
same
always
day.
mud. What'd you say?
It's all concrete.
I said, that's our give back to them getting a permit in the same day.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I think you take your
Pretty
situation.
small consolation.
Yes, exactly.
So is
So-
that 60,000 cash on hand in addition to the
It
down
is.
payment?
It is
Okay.
because what you need to do is you have to pay these things while you're going through permit,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And not all. Look, you could slow your project down, and you could say, "I'm going to wait until I get my construction loan to do a demo and asbestos and all that." But you're just adding time,
Sure.
So you have to be
So
ready
you're
to
paying
pay that
15K a month. And so
exactly
it's,
as you. Yeah, right.
To that point, this is what
I showed them while you were out.
Oh, you did?
I didn't go into a lot of detail. I just said this is.
this is what Jessica and I were going over this morning, because this is the part that Jessica's gonna take ownership over coming into our company, is all of this pre-construction kind of stuff, right? So like Steve was talking about, and we write, these are nuances we'll talk about down the road, but we write into our contracts that we want the right to do a survey of soils while we're still under contract. Because we pick up 30, 45, however many days we're gonna be under contract, we're getting ahead of it right out of the gate. But it's just all the stuff that Steve was talking about. And every single one of these has a price associated with them, on the structural engineer, the architect, civil, and on down. So that roll up is roughly 60 grand
You're saying you put that into your contract
on the buy side.
with who?
But
We
this
sell
seller. So we go under contract.
We say all we want to do is go ahead. So,
Yeah, so we'll just write in the additional provisions. Seller agrees to allow buyer to conduct soils and surveys while under contract. The results
Oh,
of
the seller of the
Of the-
before you bought the lot.
right, what we
I
call the
was
buy
like,
side.
okay.
while it's under
On the buy side. They have no
Yeah.
physical risk to the
well, there is a
property.
little physical
A little bit. They
on
have
the soils
boring
because they have
them.
to back a boring drop in, and sometimes a fence has to come down or whatever. So it's a little. Nah.
Because
Because-
we're not buying anything that's not scraped. That
Yeah,
is
they're
in
more
good enough shape that
and it's not a way for you to get out of it.
Oh, God.
Well, we
They go
write in
down,
the contract that the
25.
results of the
Probably,
soil survey
yeah.
will
We're
not
finding-
impact
I mean, we'll
our
find.
closing.
Yeah,
We buy
I
it
don't
with
know
the
exactly, but it's
like,
because we're getting water.
Because
we
you have
scrape
to.
them off. We don't.
Yeah.
I didn't even walk into 4160 when we bought it, because I just knew it didn't matter what the condition of it
It's
was.
all lot by lot. So it's crazy. I have to do that.
Yeah, some
They're like 4
developers
houses away, and we're getting
will
water.
buy
Lots
and
of
rent
them.
it
Amazing.
while they're doing all of the stuff, right?
It's literally-
Again, we don't, that's not our jam. Like, you have one water heater that goes out and you screw kind of like the whole point of having a renter in there. Or all of a sudden you get through permitting fast and you've got a renter you can't get out, so.
So that's prepaid, and so the way we model prepaids is, and I think I might have taken this out of here because it's really not that big a deal. Here's how we model it. I think it's clean. Yeah, it's pretty.
So are you guys doing a custom duplex on every property, or are you using the same plans?
A little bit about,
Or no?
we built 3 of the same right around here. I'm sick of the project. I'm sick of logging into it. We always make the exterior elevations different materials so they don't look like the exact same one. And then we have one where we bought from another developer, ironically, and so it was done by Workshop Architecture, so they have a very different feel. But we try to reuse a design, not so much because we save necessarily a lot of money on the architecture, but if you have the same GC, that they can build it faster. They generally know kind of what's going to happen and what's going where.
The one that these guys all got in King, King, we're doing the exact same model for performance store. So it's free here. It's just it's a bigger lot. It's a 10-foot longer lot. It's a 50 by
125.
Yeah, it's 55 and 135, so it's 10 feet long. So they stretch that, but it's the same model, and it's a different architect. We're not probably using them anymore, but we've got another guy we're using on the new one on Utica. So we'll try to, and the reason we can do that on that one easily is because it's way down in Slums Lake. We don't want to build them close to each other. Frankly, building Grange and Utica, those were too close.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have done that. They were just too close, even though they were 3 or 4 blocks away. So yes, we try to change up.
So you're just doing soils and survey during contract, or is there anything else you're doing? And then are you doing architecture before you close, or
No, we do it now. Close on land, and then we'll do architecture, and then we'll go ahead and get permits submitted as soon as possible. I mean, that's kind of what we're going to do right now. And the whole thing's, man, just do as fast as you possibly can, get into it, because the issues with them.
So to answer your question a little bit more, there are always anomalies, and this will be, discussions down the road. But typically, if we're doing the typical cycle of 30, 40 days from, contract to close, you can't even get through surveys and soil, and that's what the architect needs to get started. So even starting that while you're still under contract buys you a month, but you're still not starting architecture until after that. On the other hand, on Stewart, it was a total anomaly deal. We were under contract on that deal for 9 months.
We had owner carry on.
We're almost all the way. We were almost all the way through permitting, or we were through permitting by the time we closed on it. It was just a deal that we wanted extra time on the front end. Then there wanted being a legal issue on there, and so they needed more time. We were like, awesome, because they were still. We were still under contract versus we hadn't purchased it or whatever. So it was basically like a seller carry.
This is appropriate. Dying in the house. Yeah. So his family had all this. It sounds like we never had that situation before, but actually worked out great. That it took 9 months because it gave us time to get a lot of stuff done. We already had permit. So anyway, that's the top section. That's basically the land purchase section, and then this just shows you which points paid in cash. That's a 1 point. And here's the financing line. This will explain some of that. So that's points in your financing costs that are right there. Here's the construction piece. We're saying 5,000. Ours are normally around 4,900 without a basement. If we had a basement, we'd be up closer to 6,500. The ones on we've only done basements on the very second deals we ever did. We always do crawl space. The basements can just be, and it's all in duplex. Single family you always do a basement, but the crawl spaces have less issues, and they're generally speaking they're less issues and less expensive. So, but you do get less square footage, so you just have to weigh that.
Can you go back?
Sorry, this is weird how it's done. I'm going to explain as I go, but go into it right here. I'm saying 250 a square. We get a pretty good rate because we do volume and we got some good GCs. You guys, if you're going to a new GC, I mean, you're probably going to be much more up in the 260, 270 range. So I would say I would make it a worst case for you. And by the way, ours is fully loaded. So when a GC gives you a bid, it's only going to have the hard construction costs and all the vertical construction costs. Ours, the 270, what we use includes all of the prepaids, include the 60,000. So that's how we try to, because I don't want to try to, manage two budgets. Like, okay, well, we spend this much here, we're spending this much here. That doesn't I don't care where it comes from. I just want to know how much total I'm spending.
So you're thinking that your actual cost is 250?
Yeah, all in. Yeah, I'd say that's what we're getting. But again, we get pretty good rates on stuff because we've got long-term relationships. So I wouldn't model that because when our banks see our rates and we pay, put it this way, our banker at Commerce started using our GC because he saw what he did and the price he did it for. So he used our GC. So, um, so then we have another GC as well. We still do pretty well. So the reason this gets a little confusing. So this is we started using, this. I always wanted to see what the bank's perspective was and what our perspective was. And the reason we have two perspectives is because once you get the bank loan, the bank loan is the bank loan, and it's never changing. The bank will never change your loan. So every line item is already locked in. So what I wanted to be able to do is go, well, wait a minute, what if we go and as we get through the project, we find someone that can do a better job and less expensive on flat work, all of our concrete work. And so I wanted to know, I wanted a way to toggle it so that I could say, okay, instead of spending 270, we think we can get our price down overall 265 or maybe even, 267, which is meaningful, if you can get your price down. So
Even so, you're saying that even if your price comes in better, it doesn't matter because you already have the loan. So you're paying whatever you took out.
only what you've drawn on, but the reason I do it this way is because then this informs what my profit would be. Because I need to know what my cost is to understand what my profit is. So that's why I wanted two perspectives. And I did the same thing on the financing. We'll see that not on the land financing, but on the construction financing. There's two sections. There's the bank perspective section. There's three perspective sections. So you could get rid of this, and it would be it would be less confusing. But that's why that's there. And it just takes a second to sort of walk through and explain that. So this is the loan. So this is the land loan, right? Here's the land loan section. So we got 75%. Most banks will do 75%. I put 80 in here on these, but you will find just giving some a little variance. But you can hard pressed to find that. Now, you could use a hard money lender for this piece. It would make it more sense. I showed that over here. Like this was trying to say, probably when you go to a hard money lender, they're only going to give you 75%. But you probably go to a hard money lender and want to get as much as you can get. So I would say hard money. I'd say 80, but I'd be getting more like 85 or 90 if I was going to one lender.
Just on the lot.
Just on the lot. Because then you have to bring less cash on your total loan. It's less. So, so this is points though. So here's the drawback. So your points typically at hard money lenders, they don't typically do a year. They'll do 6-month terms and they'll do 2 points on 6 months. So you got four points. So you're paying 28 grand versus the bank, which standard 1% on origination, and you're paying more like 6 or 8,000. I think.
What's your land loan term?
They'll typically do. I think they typically do 15 or 18, something like that. You're gonna be there. I think that we might be doing 12 on them. I mean, we don't. It's hard to say because every deal's different. Back when we were taking a year to get a permit, it was like that. We probably need 15 or 18 months. But now it's probably 12. I didn't even know what we did in the last, to be honest.
It's usually worth with fashion payment times.
You mean? I'm sorry. Say it again.
It's
Pay
usually
points?
worth it to pay points instead of.
You're going to pay the points regardless of the loan term.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the point is there with if it's 12, 15, it's still going to be 1%.
Okay.
Typically, from the lenders that I dealt with on the land side.
Oh.
The lender makes the vast majority of their profit on points. So that's why they'll give you a good rate. Like